Keyonte George won the preseason and training camp. Plus, there's no question experience matters. It's next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 pow.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked on Jazz, and thank you for making Locked on the #1 sports podcast network. I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. And to the everydayers, you're the best. Love you. All right, bunch of stuff today. It is an Ask LOJ edition. Who won training camp? Who won the preseason? What are people saying about Ace Bailey? If you had a guess on anybody going the top 100 for a year from now, who would it be? Should we platoon players? A lot of interesting questions coming up on today's edition of Ask LOJ. Jazz win final preseason game last night. Super fun, great crowd. 2 announcements. This year on SCG Plus, you will be able to listen to the radio broadcast. That's right. This year on SCG Plus, you will be able to listen to the radio broadcast. And if everything is working correctly, not only will you be able to listen to the radio broadcast, but you will be able to toggle the radio broadcast over the video and have it synced correctly. Pretty darn cool. That is exclusive to SCG Plus, so make sure you go sign up, plus some of the other great content that you have on that's available for you on SCG Plus. Mountain Q&A, Shoot the Shot with Will Hardy, Front Row Podcast with Holly Rowe, all sorts of great stuff. So that's okay. Second announcement. We tried it last night and we will probably try it again. We are trying to find a way to do an exclusive broadcast in the arena to those of you that go into the game, that you would take your AirPods or some noise canceling headphones, probably noise canceling AirPods, and listen. And then during commercial breaks, we won't go to commercial. We're going to try this again. We tried it last night. It was definitely doable. Where we'll try to see if we can get this done. This is not done yet. This is an idea. I'm actually really curious if you like this idea, is I guess what I'm really asking you. And we would stay on, and then really you get a lot of extra Ron Boone giving analysis of what he's seeing on the floor and some other discussions. It allows me to give you a number or two that you might not have otherwise in the broadcast because I can't get it in. So it's kind of an interesting little approach. No one does it. Trying to be innovative. Interested to know if you would care about that. Also, it would just give you a no latency broadcast inside the arena that you haven't had before. So let me know if those things are of interest to you. Well, the first one's happening on SCG Plus, and I'm super excited about it. I think it's great, and I want to thank everybody who did it. The second one is the in-arena broadcast. I'd be curious if you have any interest in whether that would be something you would actually want. And I understand going to the game and wearing headphones with your friends is weird, but hopefully it adds to it. So we sampled some of it last night. People liked it. Be curious what your thoughts are. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, right now, new customers can bet $5. If your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. The first question of our Ask LOJ edition, we kind of touched on this on Postcast last night. Who won the preseason for the Jazz? When I thought about this morning, I think he means player-wise, I had 3 thoughts that I thought were really, really interesting to this. And my real answer here on who won, I actually think, is all 3 of the guys that are in their 3rd year, which leads me to kind of think that there's something to that we probably should remember this about Cody Williams, Kyle Filipowski, Isaiah Collier, who all were either not available because of injuries, limited by injuries, or just kind of okay, is that I think the 3 players that look noticeably different to me are Keyonte George, Brice Sensabaugh, and I would say Taylor Hendricks off the injury, but also just generally playing. Now, Taylor still is showing some of the signs of his inexperience, but that's because he didn't play last year. I have to find out what's going on with our defense, but Taylor, to me, seems like he keeps getting hit on back cuts and some recognition there. But I do think it's worth noting that those three guys I thought looked noticeably different than what we've seen before out of them, and they're all in their third season, right? That this is the year that guys get better. We want to make it something other than that, but this really is the year in which guys get better. It's a little bit why when we did the 240 this week, you just didn't have me going and giving a bunch of second-year players bona fide minutes, and you didn't have me giving rookies bona fide minutes as rotation players. I mean, this is, I think, when you watch this year, I think the breakout players in the league are going to be, and this is not surprising, Victor's going to be different. We'll see what happens to Brandon Miller and Charlotte. The Thompson twins, everyone's talking about it. I think it's make or break for Anthony Black. If he can turn out to shoot it, he's going to be probably pretty good. It's make or break for Jarice Walker in Indiana. It's Bilal Coulibaly in Washington. He's got to have a better year than he did last year. Probably will. He did literally what we're talking about. He had the kind of exact same second year as he did a first year. And then there's Taylor Hendricks, who we'll see what comes out of Taylor this year. The draft dropped off a little bit, but this actually turned out to be a pretty good draft because Cason Wallace at 10 is good at Oklahoma City and will probably I don't know if he'll have an increased role. There's just not that much time for him. We'll see what happens to Jed Howard in Orlando. I feel like he's got lost a little bit. Derek Lively probably gets a little bit better. Grady Dick steps forward in Toronto would be my guess. We'll see whether Jordan Hawkins can turn it around. He has not had a good start to his career. Kobe Buffkin's now in Brooklyn with a chance to get better. And Keyonte George at 16 is there. And I mean, this is a very good draft. Jaime Jaquez at 18, Brandon Pajemski. Jaime Jaquez completely stagnated last year. Brandon Pajemski kind of was the exact same as last year. These guys, Clowney in Brooklyn probably gets better this year. I mean, this is really the year in which those guys, and this is a big draft. The guys lower in the draft are struggling, but Brice is not. Nick Smith Jr. is on his second team already. We'll see what Ben Shepherd does in Indiana with increased time this year. Omax Prospers on his second team. Chris Murray, who watched last night, doesn't feel hopeful. Kobe Brown's bouncing around, not getting a lot of time. We'll see what Julian Strother gets better in Denver. That was a very, very good draft, highlighted by Victor, and I think there's a ton of players there that are going to pop. But I thought Keyonte won the preseason. Now, it is worth noting, as much as everything looked better, his shooting percentage was only moderately better. Keyonte shot 47% from the field and 31% from three. The 31% from three is probably the one that's not great. He just looked like he took better shots the whole time. Actually, this doesn't have last night in it, so never mind. NBA.com continuing to be NBA.com. So that does not have the whole preseason. Take it back. Last night, Keyonte was 7 of 11 from the field and 3 of 6 from three. So that will change that a great deal. He smiles happily because it was not a personal attack on me. See, I'm learning, guys. Don't get frustrated. The incompetence of the NBA.com is not because it was a personal attack on me. Don't take it personally. Anyway, but I think, Key and Brice Sensabaugh, I thought looked way different than Taylor. Taylor had kind of the night last night that we would hope from him. He had 24 points. He had 8 rebounds. He had 8 points. He had 7 rebounds. He had a few assists. He just made plays. He turned a corner once and got a dunk. That's the kind of night you're hoping out of him. There's just not a lot. He doesn't have a huge amount of his game. Who will be starting 5? Looks like Key, Ace, Lauri, Walker. Then what? Don't know. Filipowski started last night, was rather feckless. Taylor started 2 of those games in the preseason. It might be a little bit of what matches best on the second side. Filipowski gives you a little more ball handling, but hopefully Ace is able to give you ball handling. I don't know. It's either Taylor Hendricks or Kyle Filipowski. The only wild card, and I think it will change over the year, is whether you think Walt Clayton has reached a point where he wants to play with Keyonte, and now you're sliding Keyonte back off ball. We could do that at some point. We get much smaller. Whether Brice Sensabaugh has any reason why he should be starting, but defensively that's not his strength, and so he probably is best coming off the bench, and that's the spot where he'll be at his best over the longest period of time. So I would guess that it's either Kyle Filipowski or Taylor Hendricks. I'm not sure what the sample size is. So if the sample size is just preseason, then it's Taylor Hendricks. but I'm not sure that's fair. I think the sample size should probably have something to do with last year and summer league and more of a wider ranging period, in which case then you really look at Kyle Filipowski as a possibility as well. The one that jumps out to me last night, and may have been who they were on the floor with, but Kyle, 2 rebounds in 23 minutes and Taylor 7 rebounds in 24 minutes. Kyle's got an interesting thing going on where he's puts up really good rebounding numbers. And then I watch and I'm never convinced he's a great rebounder, which is a really weird comment because his rebounding numbers are really, really good. So I probably should just be quiet and say that he's a really good rebounder because that's what the numbers, like the numbers per game. But there are some statistics on out of area rebounding and contested rebounding chances and things like that. And I have never looked at those in regards to Kyle. And I would be really curious to what they are because it doesn't feel right now. And this also could be that he's maybe stuck to the ground a little bit because of the back and some things like that. It doesn't feel like he is a superb out of area rebounder or gets kind of rebounds that you would get otherwise, but that may be ridiculous, frankly, on my part. So probably should hold that one. But they do have this number. It's an interesting number. They have percentage of team rebounds when boxed out, percentage of rebounds, percentage of box out defense. They have all sorts of, I don't quite understand all of the box out numbers. And they do have some numbers on contested rebounding, which I do think are really interesting and give you a little bit of the ideas. They have contested rebounds, contested rebound percentage, rebound chances, adjusted rebound chances. It's I don't know that anyone has quite figured out what any of these things mean yet, frankly, and what they were in last year. If you're interested, and I've tried to figure them out and haven't totally kind of gotten there yet on some of these. Last year, percentage of adjusted rebound chances and rebound percentage, contested rebound percentage, Walker 52%, John Collins 39%, Kyle Filipowski 34%. I mean, that's backing up kind of what I'm saying, but I don't know if I buy it. What are people around the league saying about Ace Bailey? Next on Locked On Jazz. Friday edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by our friends over at Murdoch, who have an exciting announcement for you. The Murdochs have a new dealership, and you can get involved with this as well, and get all the VIP treatment from Locked On as well. The new dealership is Murdoch Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Bountiful. That's right. The Murdoch Auto Team now has its newest addition, the Murdoch Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Bountiful. It's at 755 North, 500 West in West Bountiful. And for the month of October, you receive 0% for 6 years on the new Ram 1500. That's right, 0% for 6 years on the new Ram 1500. It is the new Murdoch Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Bountiful. When you walk through their doors, you'll feel like family. If you're interested in the Ram, do email me like you would on anything else. All still VIP treatment. You can still get all the same stuff from all of your friends over at Murdoch through Locked On. So make sure you do that at Locked On and at Murdoch Chrysler Dodge. Today's show is also brought to you by Wayfair. The holidays are coming here, and before you know it, which is exciting, you're getting home ready for the guests. Celebrations are happening, and you need to make the place look great. Whether your serveware needs a refresh, your guest room needs new bedding, whatever it might be, Wayfair has everything you need to get your home holiday ready. From Christmas trees and wreaths to bedding, cookware, outside inflatables. Outside inflatables? We're doing outside inflatables in Christmas? Where are we? It's your one-stop shop for every room in the house. Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home with holiday with a huge selection from every style or budget. Wayfair with free and easy delivery. Even on the big stuff, you can get everything you need without the hassle of huge delivery fees. So get organized, refreshed, and ready for the holidays with way less with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now and shop all things home. That's wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Thanks for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. All right, I mentioned it early in the show. Just a reminder, get SCG Plus this year, and you can toggle the radio broadcast over the video. It's kind of cool. So you get still all the great Emmy Award-winning production, everything like that, and you can choose your announcers. You want Thurl and Bowler and their Emmy Award-winning broadcast with Lauren Green, go get it. If you want Ron and I for a little different flavor, go get it. Pretty cool. SCG Plus is the only place for that to happen. What are people saying about Ace Bailey, you ask? Well, yes, someone asked it. What are people around the league saying about Ace Bailey? Everyone's in. You can see it on Twitter. Let me get specific, though. Talking to some people last night. The two things that people are most impressed with on Ace, three things that people have been most impressed with Ace Bailey. One is overall energy level, just the energy level by which he's playing with. Number two, the efficiency of his footwork. How quick he is to get into a shot and be able to get a shot off, and how good his footwork is. And number three, how little he's dribbling. That there's a tendency of guys to come in this league and just put it on the deck and just try to dominate. He's just, I think he has something like, on his shots, he has like less than a dribble a shot right now. Those are the areas where I think people are most impressed by Ace Bailey. The comps are outrageous. The belief is he'll be really good. He's obviously got to do it. We don't know who he is yet. We've only known him for 2 months so far. That is, but the word, everyone is ecstatic. Everyone's ecstatic. What kind of team does Will Hardy want to build? It's a good question. I think Will's naturally offensive minded. Like, I think that's shown to be true so far. He hasn't had much defensive personnel. He doesn't have much defensive personnel tonight. I think he seemed most excited about the fact that this team might have some scrappy personality identity to it. When we was asked about the identity of this team when we were in Houston at the very beginning of preseason. And I think that jumps out to me, that was something he was excited to see, if this team could have a little scrap and a little fight and a little thing. When he talks about Walt Clayton, and Walt Clayton's like wanting to fight, you can tell that's who Will Hardy what he wants to have and what he believes in. So I think that's what Will Hardy wants. I'm not sure he's always had that personnel yet. But I do think he wants this kind of fighting, kind of gritty aspect to his team that has not been something that he's always had. That's an interesting one. I kind of go back to like a very interesting coffee I had with Quinn Snyder many years ago when we had traded Ricky Rubio and we had traded Jay Crowder and we had traded somebody else and we had added Mike Conley and Bojan Bogdanovic and we added somebody else and they were all very good. And Quinn was like so excited and he was like, well, what do you think? And I said, well, now you got to get him to play hard. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, if Ricky Rubio and Jay Crowder don't play hard, they go home. That's the essence of why they're in the league, is because they play hard. If Bojan Bogdanovic or Mike Conley don't play hard, they're still so damn good that they can survive the day. Your team's just not as good. And, they turned out to both be wonderful humans. And so they were incredibly professional and played hard. But that was really the difference between those. And so there is a funny line on this, like, I want a gritty, hard-fought team. Like, you want a gritty team, but frankly, you want guys that are really, really good. And the really, really, really good guys often will coast through part of a game or figure it out and then realize, okay, I got to put it on here. They're no different than anyone else. They sometimes want the easy route, which is not as gritty. So, but I do think that's what Will wants, is a grit-based team that's tough. I do think he's going to be creative defensively this year. We saw a lot of zone last night when you had Kyle Filipowski and Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen on the floor together. They played a lot of zone last night. And I think we're going to see them changing up defenses a tremendous amount. And then offensively, he's been a wizard so far. So it will be interesting to see what he does X and O's wise this year with that. Do you think there is a chance the Jazz are too good this year? Not good enough to win big, but not good enough to be in no man's land like a year ago? No, I don't. I think that it's going to be a fun year. I think the guys are going to play hard. I think it's going to be enjoyable. I think they're going to you can feel there's a togetherness to what they're doing. I think we might grab Sacramento if they're as injured as they look right now in the second game of the year if we're not careful. But I look at the rule of 240 that we did this week. And Washington has 102 minutes of rotation players in their roster, which is incredibly low. Brooklyn has 130. The Jazz have 158. New Orleans has 160 until DeJounte Murray comes back. And Boston has 163. I think Boston's going to be terrible. And then the next ones are all pretty close to 200. Phoenix is at 191. Philadelphia with no VJ Edgecombe getting minutes, which Nathan Harker was very upset about, who's our pre-halftime post-game TV director. At 198. I just don't think, and I think even, frankly, I think giving Key 30 is probably generous at this point. I think he will be a rotation player. I feel pretty comfortable. I think if he played for any other team other than us, I didn't give Jordan Hawkins rotation minutes for New Orleans, and he's got the exact same stat line as Key from his career so far. So I probably, in fairness, should not be giving him to Key. And then that drops us down to 128. And then you have Kyle Anderson, George Niang, and Kevin Love that are probably getting some of these minutes, and they're not all going to play. So I just don't think we have enough established minutes in the NBA right now. I do think we're going to be fun. I do think it's going to be an enjoyable season. I do think our guys are going to play hard. I do think you're going to see a togetherness out of the group. And I do think there's going to be some really fun wins. There might only be 17 of them, but there's going to be 5 or 6 of them that are really awesome and make the season fun. But I just don't see us suddenly spiking to 35 wins like Portland did last year. Who on the Jazz roster is in the top 100 players when it gets released by Locked On and others a year from now, plus creative platoon idea from a listener that I will then give an adaptation to next on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, with the weekend coming in football here for you, whether it's the Holy War or whatever it is you want to get involved in. Right now, when your first $5 bet at FanDuel, and you get $300 in bonus bets. That's right. You bet your first $5 and you win $300 in bonus bets. So if it's college football Saturday and you want to get involved, whatever it might be, Nebraska tonight, 7.5-point favorite at Minnesota. Go Big Red. Big one there. Also tonight, I believe Miami, Florida plays Louisville, the number 2 team in the country. And I think Utah State is playing San Jose State at -3.5 on that one. All those are the Friday games. And then Saturday, we've got them all. And obviously, big game between LSU and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is a 2.5-point favorite at home against LSU. Who would have ever thought? And yes, the big Holy War game coming your direction also with BYU and Utah. If you want to get in on the action, FanDuel is your spot. Right now, the Utes are a 3.5-point favorite going to BYU for that 6 o'clock start Saturday night. Have fun with it, everyone. Enjoy it. Have fun. We have enough division. Make that one fun. It is FanDuel, FanDuel.com. It's Sportsbook. Get involved. It is win your first $5. I wouldn't do the Holy Wars your $5 bet. I'll tell you that. That is for certain. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. And if you get a chance, remember to send me a note at DLock09 if you like the idea of the in-arena broadcast, if that's something you would want to do. It'd be exclusive. Then during commercial, we'd never go to commercial break. We keep talking to you, share things, take your questions, do all sorts of fun stuff. We'll see whether we're trying to figure out a way to pull it off. It's a little complicated, needs some support getting it, and appreciative of those that are supporting us on it and trying to get it done. Where was my top 100 question? Jazz currently have one top 100 player in Lauri, not spelled correctly. This time next year, how many do you think they'll have? Ace Bailey will be top 100. Maybe Walker Kessler will be top 100. He's kind of been on the edge of it. He's probably like 104 right now. That's probably it. It'd be nice if Key made that jump too. If we have 4 top 100 players, that suddenly gets to be, you're suddenly actually pretty good. So I think you have to, that's probably a little bit much. What happened with Walker and Lauri and their passing? What does it mean for the Jazz moving forward? So I think last night, if you didn't catch it, Walker had 8 assists. Lauri, I think, had 5. Both of them would have been season highs last year. two things. One, Portland pressures more than anyone else in the league. Portland picks the ball up higher than any other team in the league. And so it forces the ball out of your point guard's hands and forces other people to make plays. And Lauri and Walker did it. The second thing is the Jazz are playing more spread with more flash game, more cutters. In fact, there's a really cool play that I didn't pull tonight where I think Walker hits, it might have been Lauri. He's the third guy to slash at that spot. Third guy, maybe it was third guy overall, but he literally is on a slash behind another player, which is a really interesting Will Hardy kind of change to the offense. It has something going on there I've not seen before. So someone, usually the top guy, extra guy from a side will flash. Well, he actually brought Lauri right behind him on the second side. And that got a layup. So some of it's just the offense. We're slashing, more cutting. People are overplaying. People are worried about our handoff game. Handoffs are becoming more popular than pick and roll right now. There's less and less pick and roll in this league. It's dropped by 5 pick and rolls last year, which is about 4%, and 9% since 4 years ago. So there's less and less pick and roll going on. And there's other offensive systems, and a lot of it's a handoff game. But if you overplay to try to deny the handoff, then people are able to back cut it. I asked Will Hardy about this last night, and I was going to play that for you this morning, but that video was not available. So there is just something going on here with the way the league is changing a little bit. This was interesting. I think it was from James Hansen. I believe the Jazz should implement a platoon system based on matchups to maximize performance and long-term development. Outside of Nurkic, the veterans wouldn't need to play. He goes on to say every day. You'd play Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love one day, and you'd play Svi Mykhailiuk or somebody else the other day. It's an interesting idea, Kyle Anderson, to keep the veterans engaged, but they don't have to play every night. And they'd probably all rather play some than none. It's a really interesting idea. It's probably worth looking into a little bit. I've actually always wondered, and we have so many less back-to-backs than we used to, but when we used to have a lot of back-to-backs, and the word was the guys were 10% slower in back-to-backs, then whether or not you actually would be better off, your four best players play every night. That's probably the truth of like who they are, what they should do. They should play every night. And then what are you better off actually playing your other guys, platooning your other guys. So some guys play on back-to-backs and some guys don't. Now the data shows you kind of have to play 30 minutes to be slowed. So maybe that doesn't work, but I have always wondered if you should have team A and team B for back-to-backs. And it's a way to keep your 15-man roster engaged. So I'm kind of with the concept of this. I'm also with that we're not creative enough with our rosters in the NBA, that really the rosters now with 15 players and 3 two-ways are up to 18 players. And you should just have more players who are specialists in some way, shape, or form. Mo Bamba just to block shots. Elijah Harkless just to defend Ja Morant for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, just exhaust the crap out of him. Whatever it might be, I think there's something, whether you have some dead-eye shooter that literally just comes in for the end of quarter possessions just to take a shot. It has to be guarded and shoots 50% from 3 and can't guard the world. I don't know the answers to these, but I think we should be being more creative with our 18-man rosters in the NBA to maximize them and to get something out of it. What does it mean to set a good screen? This was actually asked the other day, and I actually went and talked to Walker about it yesterday. We know what it looks like with Rudy, but what are the components of a good screen? Why is Nurkic good? But Taylor and Walker have a lot to learn. So I talked to Walker about like what makes a good offensive pick and roll big, since Walker was the 3rd worst in the NBA last year. So he talked about watching Nurk. It has a lot to do with the base you set. It also has a lot to do with the guard being patient enough to let the big set. And then the big stationary and he's set. So the guard has to drive that defender into the big. There is a level where the guard is maybe as responsible, if not more responsible, than the big guy on this. And then the last part of this is that I do think like you change your angles ever so slightly depending what your guard is doing and where he's coming from. And that's where Rudy was really a master, is learning how to change. But you've got to get contact. Like you've got to get contact. That is the biggest thing. And then you've got to hold the contact. That's what Nurk does so well, is he makes the contact and then the guy's stuck on him because the Bosnian beast is so mammoth. And that's what Will Walker talked to me about. You've got to make contact. You got to hold them on the contact. But the guard really is the guy who's going to let something exist. I had a question about the new high five rule. I think you're going to see people like players start kicking out their legs because of the fact that they got figured out they could get fouls on it, and it's kind of gross. And I think you're going to see players on the new high five shot, like holding their hand out even further. I kind of saw it last night for the first time. This is a weird question to me, but I have a funny story, and that's how I'm going to wrap the show today. Will Hardy seems like a no-nonsense kind of coach. If one of the younger guys showed up with like a rat tail, do you think he would decrease the odds of making the rotation? No, I think this is a weird question. But I will tell you a funny story about, and I don't know why a rat tail would be a problem. Frankly, Colin had one for a while. And like, is it any worse than someone showing up with a flat 1970s flat top? Like, who cares? So here's the funny story. When Will took the job, he was like, okay, what do I do about rules? And he talked to a bunch of coaches, and all the coaches said, just have as few rules as possible. Because if you have a rule, you have to be able to actually hold to it. And if you're not actually, punishing someone for breaking that rule, then you really lose all your credibility. So have as few rules as possible. So Will's like, okay, we're going to have as few rules as possible. We're going to be on time. We're going to have no jewelry while at practice. Like, that's going to be it. And they get to the first practice, and Jordan Clarkson has diamonds in his teeth. And Will Hardy's like, okay, we have one rule. We will not be late for practice. That is Locked on Jazz. Have a great one. Thanks very much for tuning in. We'll be back with you on Monday. It'll be opening week. Tuesday's opening day. Wednesday, the Jazz kick it off. It'll be awesome. I can't believe we're here. Love it. We send you now to the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel on YouTube, Locked on NBA. Also check out Locked on NBA with Wes, Matt, and Hayes every day.